They thought it was just another ceremonial drive. Queen Camilla's convoy left Windsor before dawn. No fanfare, no press. Just 5 black vehicles, tinted windows, and a manifest that didn't raise eyebrows. Until a Coldstream Guard at the gate paused. Because his canine partner didn't walk past one of the cars. He stopped, growled, and sat down. 12 minutes later, the entire convoy was frozen behind the gates. The Queen Consort still in her vehicle, and a royal guard on the radio to Prince William. Because inside those crates wasn't flowers. It was something illegal and perhaps even dangerous. Now, before we show you what exactly did the guard discover inside, and why the Prince of Wales personally grounded Camilla's movement, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from, and tap that subscribe button with the bell turned on. Because this wasn't about disrespect or disobedience. This was about a dog who knew the truth, and a royal guard who chose to believe him. Windsor's south compound didn't sleep, but it did go quiet just before dawn. The rain had backed off to mist, the kind that left a sheen on every vehicle surface and turned gravel into slick black paste. Overhead, the perimeter floodlights hummed low, casting wide cones of amber across Logistics Gate 3, the last checkpoint before any royal convoy hit public roads. Sergeant Lionel Hart stood beside the control outpost, gloved hands clasped behind his back, boots aligned with the edge of the painted bay line. Coldstream Guard, 17 years, 3 medals, and the last man left from a former detail who'd once secured the Queen's final Jubilee route. These days, he ran outbound integrity checks alongside the RAF's Police Canine Division. What most thought of as ceremonial redundancy, until it wasn't. 2 handlers walked the canine units in figure 8s across the holding lane. Engines idled. Diesel fumes curled under sodium vapor light. The dogs moved like taut springs, Belgian Malinois, lean and focused. Their noses dipped along axles, between crates, beneath canvas-covered carts. Crates marked for a floral installation at Oxfordshire's Heritage Theatre, another for sound staging. And then Rex stopped moving. The older of the 2 dogs, not the fastest, but by far the most precise. Mid-stride, he halted, ears erect, head angled toward the back end of the second support vehicle in Camilla's convoy. His tail went rigid. A moment later, he let out a single low bark. Not alarmed, not aggressive, just definite. Hart recognized the signal immediately. He'd worked with Rex for 3 years. Watched him flag everything from plastic explosives to unmarked pharmaceuticals. The dog had never given a false positive, not once. And he'd never seen Rex use that particular bark, low, controlled, almost conversational, for anything organic. That sound meant metallics, complex compounds, something engineered. The handler tried a reapproach, walked Rex back to reset his exposure range. Same result. This time, the dog pawed once at the rear panel, sat immediately, and stared. Hart had seen that exact sequence once before, 18 months ago, when a diplomatic attaché had tried to move prototype communications gear through Heathrow under humanitarian cover. Same seated posture, same unblinking focus. That case had ended with 3 arrests and a ministry-level inquiry. Hart took 2 paces forward, nodding for confirmation. The handler's expression didn't shift, but his voice dropped low. "He's flagging metallic nitrate trace, sir. Not explosive mass. Something residual, like a compound sealant." Hart's gaze shifted to the convoy itself. 5 vehicles, glossy and near silent, one of them carrying the Queen Consort, scheduled to leave in under 4 minutes. The crates were logged as event materials. Table pieces, banners, commemorative displays. Rex's tail thudded once more against the tarmac, still seated, still staring. Hart took a slow breath. These dogs are trained on 5 compound categories. That one's not from a wreath. He didn't raise his voice, just tilted his chin toward the control booth behind him. "Hold the line. Gate remains shut." And to the handler, quieter still, "Mark the spot, don't touch a thing." Because in Hart's experience, the most dangerous thing wasn't what a manifest declared, it was what it didn't. The convoy engines idled in a slow, synchronized hum, muffled beneath the rain. Exhaust drifted in faint ribbons around the barrier lights as Hart moved toward the second vehicle, his boots cutting sharp prints into the damp asphalt. Every few seconds, a wiper blade groaned across a windscreen, keeping time with the steady hiss of rainfall. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just tension pressed into silence. The lead coordinator, Oliver Grant, stepped out from the first SUV with his umbrella half open, phone already in hand. "Sergeant, what's the delay?" he called, irritation veiled in forced politeness. "We're cleared to depart. 5 minutes behind already." Hart didn't look up right away. He was bent at the vehicle's rear, tracing a finger near the latch line where the dog had indicated. "We've got a positive compound hit. Protocol requires secondary inspection." Grant's tone sharpened. "That's absurd. All cargo was cleared at Clarence House yesterday afternoon." Hart straightened slowly, eyes level. "Then you won't mind showing me the paperwork?" Grant produced a folded sheet encased in plastic, a printed manifest, and a clearance stamp in pale blue ink. Hart took it, tilted it under the floodlight. The custodial ID box was blank. He tapped it once with his glove. "This code belongs to household transport, not security clearance." Grant's jaw set. "You're holding up the Queen Consort's convoy for a dog." Hart didn't blink. "No say, for what the dogs found." Behind them, the second Canine team rechecked the area. Another signal, this time from the opposite side of the same vehicle. 2 dogs, same reaction. No ambiguity. The control booth light flickered as Hart lifted his radio. His voice came through steady, every syllable clipped by years of ceremonial precision. "Gate 3 to command, potential Category A transport irregularity. Lock all outbound lanes. Stand by verification." From inside the glass booth, the operator hesitated just long enough to look through the rain, saw Hart's posture, saw the dogs holding firm, and pressed the switch. The security arms dropped across both exit lanes, red lights flashing once before turning solid. The hum of the convoy deepened as drivers shifted uneasily in their seats. At the front of the line, Camilla's vehicle remained still, tinted windows up, no motion inside. Only a faint outline of her aide's silhouette moving against the interior light. Grant spread his hands. "You understand what this looks like?" Hart met his eyes. "That's not my concern. My concern's what it smells like." The rain intensified, drumming against the metal roofs of the vehicles, filling the silence between them. Somewhere behind, a dog shook off water, collar tags clinking once. The gates stayed closed, and for the first time that morning, nobody moved. The tinted window of the lead vehicle lowered with a faint hydraulic hiss. Rain slipped off the glass in smooth sheets as Queen Camilla leaned forward into view. Her voice, when it came, was calm but sharpened at the edges. "Sergeant Hart, why are we stationary?" Hart stepped forward 2 paces, his posture still exact, shoulders squared. "Ma'am, Canine units detected an unlisted compound on one of the support vehicles. Clearance paperwork doesn't match the manifest. Until Custodial confirms, the convoy remains on hold." Camilla studied him for a long moment. "This convoy was cleared by my office. It contains staging equipment and commemorative crates for Oxfordshire. Nothing more." Hart didn't waver. "Then your office will confirm it in writing. Until then, protocol remains active." From the rear seat, her aide leaned toward her and murmured, "It's likely the solvents. Paint compound residue. The dogs may be reacting to that." Camilla didn't take her eyes off Hart. "Then tell him." Grant stepped back out into the rain, flashing the same paperwork. "Sergeant, the crates include lacquered finishes. Set pieces sprayed down at Clarence yesterday. That could explain the false alert." Hart gave a short nod. "Then we'll run a container density scan. If it's paint, we'll see a light organic readout." He walked to the side panel of the second support SUV, where the portable scanner had already been deployed. The technician handed him a tablet, the screen lit with a grid overlay highlighting internal structure density. Organic would show up green, Hart said, tapping the tablet once. It didn't. The box returned a deep yellow-orange, signifying metallic presence. Not shavings, not framework, solid components. Hart turned the screen toward Grant. Paint solvents don't come wrapped in tungsten alloy. The Canine handler stood motionless nearby, dog at heel, watching the exchange with unreadable eyes. At the head of the convoy, Camilla's hand was now resting on the door edge. She didn't speak again, only watched. Hart moved back to his comm, voice low but resolute. This is Gate 3. Confirm unregistered metallic cargo. Requesting custodial notification, Priority 1. Hold all convoy vehicles in place. The rain picked up, slicking every surface, making the glow from the red gate lights reflect off the tarmac like veins. No one had been shouted at. No orders barked. And yet the Queen's convoy, fully fueled, with engines running, hadn't moved an inch. Not because it couldn't, but because something inside it hadn't been declared, and someone outside it wasn't looking away. Inside the control post, Hart scrolled through the Royal Convoy log database on a secure terminal. Every departure involving senior royals carried a digital record. Timing, personnel, cargo class, route tier, custodial endorsement. The Queen Consort's convoy, listed under outbound ceremonial rehearsal, Level 3, bore no indicators of high-profile movement, no VIP tier, no armoured asset, no security liaison attached. A complete misclassification. Hart frowned. Camilla had made public remarks just 2 days ago about attending a literacy event in Oxfordshire. A minor, but scheduled appearance. So why was her transport buried under a low-tier logistics tag? He tapped deeper into the internal routing history, accessing secure dispatch overlays. There, in a greyed-out appendix, he found it. A restricted use internal memo from Domestic Security Command, time-stamped 2 weeks earlier. The contents were brief, but telling. All development stage security prototypes designated under Program Tactilus are prohibited from external demonstration, off-site storage, or mobile transfer without signed clearance from MOD liaison and custodial office. Breach subject to immediate revocation of transport privileges. Hart felt his stomach tighten. Program Tactilus. He'd heard of it. Rumours only. A Defence Ministry test suite of urban surveillance tools, portable directional microphones, acoustic triangulation devices. Crowd mapping audio tech, still in trials, still confidential. He rechecked the manifest on the convoy's support vehicle. No mention, just floral installations, display grade, a blatant mislabel. Then he noticed something else. The cargo weight declaration, 240 kilograms. He pulled up the standard weight parameters for ceremonial staging equipment. Banners, typically 15 to 20 kilotons per crate. Table settings, 25 to 30 kilos. Sound equipment, if included, rarely exceeded 40 kilograms per unit. He did the math. For the declared contents, the total weight should have been closer to 140 kilograms. Someone had hidden an extra 100 kilograms of undeclared material inside those crates, then falsified the weight log to match the increased mass. That wasn't oversight, that was calculated concealment. His radio buzzed softly. Gate 3, Canine 2, handler reports sustained magnetic interference near Cargo Bay 2. Intermittent field disruption when scanner passes left side. Hart didn't answer at first. He glanced out the booth window, where the dogs now sat farther back, handlers holding them on shortened leads. Their ears stayed perked. Rex hadn't shifted once. He exhaled slowly. This isn't floral cargo, it's electronic. Outside, the fog was starting to lift just slightly, revealing the gold-framed crown decal glinting on the lead vehicle's license plate. A line of polished metal and protocol, still idling but going nowhere. Hart keyed the internal log and flagged the cargo manifest for custodial intercept review. He didn't need proof to act, he already had it. Not from what was declared, but from what was misfiled, misnamed, and quietly embedded beneath royal varnish. He looked once more toward the sealed crate in question. "This is either a mistake," he murmured to no one, "or someone's trying to move classified tech in the Queen's name." The hum of encrypted circuitry filled the silence as Hart connected the secure line. The flickering monitor cast a soft blue hue across his gloves as he keyed in the custodian relay code. It rang once. "This is William," came the voice. Measured, alert, not surprised. Hart stood straighter, instinctively. "Sir, Sergeant Lionel Hart, Coldstream Guard. I'm calling from Gate 3, Windsor outbound. There's been a multi-level discrepancy on Queen Consort Camilla's convoy manifest." William didn't interrupt. Canine teams flagged metallic nitrate trace on a rear support vehicle. Secondary scan returned inorganic density, not consistent with declared cargo. Manifest lists ceremonial items, but internal routing has the convoy logged under a Level 3 rehearsal. No custodial seal. Clearance was printed, but not signed. I pulled the archive. There's a standing memo from domestic security that explicitly prohibits off-site movement of crowd control tech under Program Tactilus. A short pause. "And you believe that's what's on board?" "Yes, sir. I haven't opened it, but the readings and dog behavior suggest advanced electronics. Magnetic field feedback confirmed. Attempted misclassification. Possibly intentional." William's voice was lower now. "Hold the line. Do not open or unload anything. And do not allow that convoy to leave the premises." Hart nodded instinctively, though there was no camera. "Understood. Is she aware?" "Camilla's spoken to me directly. Denies wrongdoing. Aide claims it's lacquered paint, causing false alerts." William didn't respond immediately. "Then you know better." "I do, sir." "Good." A faint mechanical shift in William's background. He was moving. "I'll be arriving shortly. Don't escalate." "Understood." The line clicked off. Outside, Camilla's car still idled beneath the overhang. Window now rolled back up. The interior light glowed faintly inside. Her silhouette was still. Hart stepped from the booth back into the lane. The rain had settled into mist again, light but unrelenting. He passed the handlers, giving each a nod. "Stand ready." At the barrier gate, a junior security officer leaned close. "She just asked if we're holding her hostage." Hart didn't laugh. "Tell her no." He adjusted his gloves and glanced once more at the dark-tinted vehicle ahead. "Tell her she's not a prisoner. She's just a passenger until we're cleared." The convoy sat in a line of tense stillness. 5 engines low idling. Windshield wipers ticking rhythmically, the rain catching in soft halos beneath the amber gate lights. And in the quiet, between those slow seconds, Hart felt the weight of it. Not scandal, not yet, but something worse in its own way. A breach trying to wear a uniform. He looked down the line and murmured under his breath, "For once, the road out of Windsor leads back in." The sound of the approaching motorcade was almost imperceptible over the rain. 3 vehicles, no lights flashing, no formal outriders, just dark silhouettes moving down the inner lane with precision and quiet authority. Hart stood already at the checkpoint entrance, rain pooling on the shoulders of his overcoat, clipboard tucked under one arm. He didn't move as the middle vehicle stopped directly across from him and the rear door opened. Prince William stepped out without ceremony. No sash, no security detail at his side, just a high-collared black coat, the faintest trace of road dust at the hem, and that unmistakable gait. Purposeful, steady, unhurried. He moved toward Hart without a word, his gloved hand already reaching for the printed clearance manifest. Hart handed it over. This was presented by Convoy Lead. sealed with an outdated household watermark, no serial match, no signature. William angled the paper under the gate floodlight. This was lifted from a household logistics form. This isn't a security pass, it's a shell. From the front of the convoy, Oliver Grant emerged, still holding his phone like a prop he wasn't quite ready to let go of. Your Royal Highness, we were simply trying to expedite a minor equipment delivery. William cut him off with a glance. Who signed this? Grant hesitated. It was issued under temporary aid clearance. The usual processing team had already... Temporary aids do not authorize sealed cargo through Windsor gates, especially not under restricted classification. A beat passed. The air thickened. Then Camilla stepped from her car. Her expression wasn't shaken, only carefully measured. She approached without umbrella, the soft mist speckling the shoulders of her grey coat. When she spoke, her voice was calm but clearly edged. This delay is absurd. We're transporting support crates for staging. The dogs misread it. We've already lost 25 minutes. William turned to face her fully. So is smuggling restricted police hardware under the Crown's flag. Silence rippled down the convoy line. Camilla's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? William didn't raise his voice. I'm not implying anything. I'm identifying unregistered equipment on a convoy marked for ceremonial delivery. I have Defense Ministry memos prohibiting exactly this kind of movement. She turned sharply to her aide. What is he talking about? Grant stepped closer, voice lower now. Ma'am, it was meant to be a demo unit for the event. Low risk. It wasn't flagged for issue. William's expression didn't change. A demo unit for a literacy event. He let the absurdity hang in the air for a moment. Tell me, what exactly were you planning to demonstrate? Acoustic surveillance at a children's reading? Camilla's composure flickered, just briefly. It was meant for perimeter security, crowd management. The venue requested additional safety measures after last year's incident. Then the venue should have filed a formal request through the Home Office, William said, not received classified equipment through an unlisted royal convoy. You don't get to decide which protocols apply to you. The rain continued its steady rhythm against the vehicles. Somewhere down the line, an engine shut off completely. Then another. Camilla drew herself up. I was trying to help, to provide resources where they're needed. You were trying to move stolen equipment off-site without oversight. William's voice stayed level, but the words carried weight. And the moment someone questioned it, your first instinct was to invoke your title and dismiss the guard who caught it. Camilla said nothing. William didn't flinch. Then it will be demonstrated at Windsor. Not Oxfordshire. He turned to Hart and gave the smallest of nods. Proceed. And just like that, the atmosphere shifted, not because anyone raised a voice, but because power had spoken, and it hadn't come from behind tinted glass. Hart moved with slow precision, clipboard under one arm, gloves freshly swapped for latex. Behind him, two technicians from the Ministry's Joint Asset Verification Unit followed in silence, flanking the suspect's support vehicle like surgeons entering an operating theatre. Rain tapped steadily on the SUV's roof as Hart opened the rear cargo doors. Inside, beneath a thin layer of packing foam and false-bottom floral insulation, sat three compact matte black crates, each no larger than a carry-on, each stamped with serial markings worn near unreadable, except for one thing, the brass serial tabs. MOD Drew, VX2143. Hart's jaw tightened. He glanced to one of the techs, who gave a single shallow nod. Ministry of Defence. Defence Research Unit. Classified. He unlatched the first crate. Inside, nestled in moulded inserts, lay a sleek, rectangular device. Jet black, no markings, small as a tablet, but with a ridged sensor grille along one edge. A second layer beneath held antenna arrays, fibre bundles, and what looked like a diagnostic uplink box. The technician read the serial tag. These are the Tactilus C units, acoustic crowd interceptors, fully directional, logs unencrypted voice data within 100-metre cones. Hart didn't react. Another tech opened the second crate. Identical contents, this time with 2 additional handheld controllers. These weren't declared, not for trials, not for movement. From behind them, Oliver Grant's voice came in soft, unconvincing. They were meant for security demonstration at the venue. VIP escort tracking. Non-lethal, passive field use only. Hart looked over his shoulder. Without disclosure? Prince William stepped closer, rain slicking across the shoulders of his field coat. He picked up one of the devices with a gloved hand, examining the internal label. Serial series ends in 43A. These were part of the batch flagged missing from last quarter's audit. Camilla approached slowly from the lead vehicle, coat pulled tighter, eyes fixed on the open crates. Their safety devices, not weapons, not intrusive. William didn't raise his voice. Their surveillance tools, unauthorized, unlawful outside ministry jurisdiction. You're not supposed to have access, let alone be moving them under a royal banner. Camilla said nothing. Hart resealed the first crate. Every movement, quiet, exact. "Sir," the technician said, handing over a paperless custody register. "Recommend full seizure. Chain of evidence begins now." Hart signed his name. William gave one final glance to the open case, then turned to Hart. "Return the convoy to Windsor. Lockdown begins now." Hart tapped his radio. "All units, code red, custodial return. Full reversal." Engines dimmed. Movement began, slow and unannounced. And through it all, the dogs sat quietly, as if their work was already done. Guardians who'd never barked, only pointed and waited. By midday, the convoy had returned in silence to Windsor's inner perimeter, each vehicle directed through the east lane to avoid public lines of sight. The seized crates, still unopened since the initial discovery, were transported directly into the custodial annex, a windowless structure embedded into the north wing. It was where the Crown processed not secrets, but threats. Hart stood just inside the annex's holding chamber, watching as the technicians worked through their cataloguing procedure. White gloves, sealed evidence tables, triple-chain custody registration. Everything was recorded twice, digitally and in handwriting. The crates sat on reinforced steel plinths, 1 meter apart. The first opened under camera. The technician read the internal code aloud. VX2143A. Confirmed match to Defence Research Unit's missing batch. Classified under Tactilus subseries. Status: stolen, not scrapped. Last accounted for 6 months ago. Case marked inactive under misplaced evaluation. William stood behind the line, arms folded. "These were never supposed to leave Northolt," one of the analysts said. "They weren't cleared for palace environments. They weren't cleared for use." Hart kept his voice low. "They were cleared for nothing." Additional tags were recovered. 2 from internal ministry tracking plates, 1 scratched almost to illegibility. Enough to confirm it. These units had vanished from inventory after a failed pre-deployment trial and had never been reported properly. Buried in paperwork. Lost to the system. Now rediscovered behind the Queen Consort's floral crates. But it was what they found beneath the equipment that made Hart's jaw tighten. Folded inside a false panel at the bottom of the second crate was a laminated document marked Deployment Schedule Private. It outlined 6 separate events over the next 4 months. Each one a public appearance by Camilla. Each location listed with grid coordinates. Each event marked with estimated crowd density and optimal placement zones for the surveillance devices. The third crate held something worse. A data storage drive, unmarked, connected to a portable tablet via encrypted cable. When the technician powered it on, the screen displayed a log of previous recordings, audio files, dates going back 3 weeks, locations that matched Camilla's recent private visits. Someone had already been testing the equipment, and they'd been doing it without authorization, documentation, or legal justification. William issued the next order without raising his tone. Immediate audit across all household transport manifests. Any clearance issued in the past 6 months goes back under review. Effective tonight. He turned to a security liaison in plain uniform. Camilla's outbound permissions revoked until further notice. Hart, still beside the evidence table, signed the final seizure log. One of the custodial aides paused near him and asked quietly, "You ever think of what would have happened if the dogs hadn't caught the trace?" Hart didn't answer right away. He watched the final crate being sealed in red custody wrap, an institutional ribbon no one celebrated. William came to stand beside him. It wasn't disobedience, it was defense. Hart's reply was quiet. Only difference is how quiet it looks. William nodded once, his eyes on the van now being loaded with the sealed cases. That's why it worked. The bay doors closed with a hydraulic hiss. Inside those crates, no jewels, no heirlooms, just illegal tech that had nearly slipped into public use under a royal convoy's shadow. Hart remained as the van pulled away toward the archive vault, not for ceremony, just to watch it leave Windsor the right way. Escorted, logged, accounted for, like anything that matters. By the time the last vehicle disappeared around the perimeter wall, Windsor had returned to its old rhythm. Quiet, structured, undisturbed. No announcements, no press releases. Just wet cobblestones drying under a pale overcast sky, and the faint hiss of distant pressure valves releasing from the vault annex. Hart stood alone at the edge of the South Field kennels, cap tucked under one arm, uniform damp at the collar. The scent of rain lingered in the air, clinging to the grass and gravel. Beside him, Rex lay stretched out beneath the overhang, muzzle resting lightly across Hart's boot. The dog's ears twitched at every distant engine, but didn't lift his head. He didn't need to. His part was done. Hart reached down once, absent-mindedly scratching behind Rex's ear. "Told you it wasn't paint," he muttered. Footsteps approached from the side path, measured, unhurried. Prince William emerged, gloves off now, coat open, carrying nothing but a closed file folder beneath one arm. He stopped beside Hart, watching Rex for a moment before speaking. "You trust your dogs more than your paperwork." Hart didn't look over. "Dogs don't forge signatures, sir." William let out a faint breath, almost a laugh, but not quite. "Keep that philosophy. We'll need it more than ever." No formal thanks, no decorations. Just a glance toward the quiet road where the sealed convoy had once tried to leave unnoticed, and a shared understanding that sometimes the things you stop are more important than the ones you let through. The floodlights hadn't come on yet. The sky hovered in that early evening grey where everything feels paused. The only motion came from the damp flags stirring faintly above the compound gate. Hart adjusted his gloves and turned back toward the kennel row, boots crunching on the gravel. Rex rose and padded alongside him, not on command, just because he knew it was time. And behind them, parked and silent, sat the original convoy vehicles, emptied now, cold and locked in place. Not punished, just paused. Because at Windsor, not everything that leaves is announced. And not everything that stays is meant to be seen. But today, something stayed. Because one man listened to a dog and refused to look away. Should a royal guard have the right to halt a Queen Consort's convoy if the evidence comes from a dog, not a document? Do you think Sergeant Hart was right to trust the detection teams over the paperwork? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Hit like if you believe discipline should still outrank status. And don't forget to subscribe with the bell icon on so you never miss what really happens behind the Crown's closed gates. Share this video with someone who still thinks protocol is just ceremony and that security dogs only sniff for explosives. Watch the next story on your screen now, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same watch.